Picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Morning, welcome back. It's week 2 on the 1-2 punch, the follow-up sucker punch figures, and this is pretty much where we left them last week. Over the weekend, I did play around and I printed up some. I like the robot head motif so much that I printed up some gas mask zombie Nazi heads to go on the other bases. I like this one particularly because A, it's more fantastic and less realistic. I don't need any more realistic Nazis in my life. I've got plenty. So I like the fantasy version. And I just did a quick Google search for gas mask zombie on the internet, and that's what I came back with. So I was able to pull in a file and take it into Mesh Mixer and pop the head off of it and do some printing. And they came out nice. I had to do some sizing and some scaling, but it worked. The figures held up. The quality of them is such that they were able to be enlarged and still come out really nicely. So I'm just going to litter the base with them. I haven't quite figured out exactly how I'm going to pose them, but for now they're good. And my other big concern for the weekend was working on the ideas for the fishnet on Rocket. And first, let me take some of these delicate parts off here that still aren't glued. I had to raise up the camera on the tripod to capture everything that's going on in here. That is the hood. The hood is dried up over the weekend, and yes, it is a little small, but I have to tell you that it is designed in such a way to fit on the back and still allow the big gun or the big sword scabbard to fit on there. So that's why it's a little bit smaller than it might be in a perfect world. I did take the Molotow pen and draw in all of these eyelets over the weekend. That was fun. Got to clean that up a little bit. Had to go out and restock myself on some of my black paints, so that was a trip that needed to happen over the weekend. I'm just disassembling her so I can move her off of the table. I'm looking forward to finishing this week. Really, I've got the flesh to paint. I didn't talk about these at all last week. These in the movie, I believe, are supposed to be shotgun shells, but they are so wildly out of scale on this sculpt that I'm treating them more like hand grenades, or I've painted them up like shotgun shells still, but they're more like hand grenades or smoke bombs or something. And see, I've got little details, like I've got zipper teeth here that I could be painting in here. That'll give a little bit of pizzazz to these. Let's get Sweet Pea off the table, and I'll concentrate on what I've discovered about Rocket. Okay, we're all cleaned off with the exception of the one piece that I really need to work on, and that is this body of Rocket, which has to get the fishnets on it. Now, there are fishnet and skin pieces all through here that I haven't pulled the tape off of yet. First thing I'm going to do, I'll do this week, is to find a good flesh-colored base that I can use for both of the gals, because they are sisters in the movie. They should have similar complexions, even though that would be darker and healthier than the porcelain tones of Baby Doll. These ones are more natural skin tones. But these are all the areas that have, should help if I did this on the camera. I think I should know that by now. But these are all areas that have skin. Actually, these two are regular skin without fishnet. This is fishnet, which corresponds to this going on here. Anyway, so I was reading last week everybody's suggestions about what the best thing to use. Whether I particularly enjoyed the idea of using a hairnet. It's all a question of scale and of being able for it to hold its shape and all that kind of stuff. Every solution was valid. They all had their pluses and their minuses. And I was scratching my head and I was trying to think about what to do, because it's not simply a question like here. It's a question of, okay, this is that one piece, and the same thing over here. It's got a very clear defined border. But when you get down to the legs, it has to wrap around. It's not one big piece that wraps around the whole leg like if it were a piece of actual lace or a stocking, because it's got all of these straps, and I think one of them is a brown strap that holds down her knife holster, and the other ones are black that go down to her stockings. So you have to treat each one of these areas as its own problem, and which means gluing down a lot of things. And they are shapes that kind of have to hold their own. They have to hold their own shape. And if you're trying to put fabric there and pull it tight and hold it down to the skin, it's an issue. Drawing on the skin was the strongest contender. Either doing it with a pencil or a black acrylic pen. That was the strongest contender until I came upon this idea. And it is my old friend, the screen. I've used screening on the Razor Crest. I use screening in scratch building. But look what happens when you lay that screen over top of the skin. That is, to my eye, that is the best scale. I mean, it's right in scale with what I need. It holds its own shape. I don't have to tack it down, except for around, maybe a couple of spots in the perimeter. I think using this is going to be the best solution. I can paint it black and then cut it to shape, make sure that it is following the contours, but I don't have to glue the entire surface like I would have to do with a fabric solution. Now, it's going to work on this particularly. It's going to work back here like a charm because these are all single plane things. It's going to work on the legs in areas where it has to wrap around and is bordered by any of these stripes. Now, it may not wrap around the arms as well. I may be able to do it in the arm area itself, but not in the armpit area. So we might have to compromise and not use the netting there. Treat them more like less like an entire body undershirt, if that makes any sense. I don't know if I'll be able to put any up on her butt cheeks, but I can put plenty on these areas here, and I can cut them to make sure that the pattern of the strapping, the pattern of the cross-hatching is matching. Cross-hatching, matching, didn't mean to make that rhyme either. But I think that's going to be the best solution, all told, is cutting out pieces like it were a piece of a patterned fabric. I've got enough of the screening laying around. Lord knows I've got a ton of it. I think that's going to be the best solution. I think it's going to offer me one good consistent density of the fishnet for the entire. See, if I do something like that, then the entire model has the same density of the fishnet, and I was kind of concerned that I would end up with really big, wide open fishnets here and tight and closed off ones up here. Anyway, it was one of those things that once I happened on it, I was thinking, I was scrambling and looking and thinking and scrambling, and once I came to this solution, I kind of said, give yourself the rest of the weekend off, because I think you've just solved it. And I think, yes, I could rack my brain for, another year trying to figure out the perfect solution, but I think getting on with it is the best medicine. So I'm happy with the solution. So what I'll need to do now is paint a solid tone on these and get ready to. Actually, I think what first thing I need to do is, before I start abusing this, is to carefully draw all these out and map them and get them tweaked, and then, you know, make a little chart and number them and all that. And then once they're all cut and prepared, then I can paint the skin and then go back, and I'm thinking what I can do. I haven't figured out exactly whether it's going to be microcrystal clear or CA or what the adhesive agent is going to be, because I would kind of like it to dry flat and not glossy. But if I need to paint over it with a flat, just a flat varnish over top of the glue, it's not the mesh itself, but the glue, I don't want to be glossy. Okay, I'm in the tricky minefield that is the skin tone land. What I've got done on Rocket here is how well it's showing up on camera versus how well it shows up in real life. It is a bit orange to me, but that's where I go. I go that way, and then I bring it back with coats of light flesh color and hit the highlights with it. There are areas I really like, areas I don't. It's going to be that way, but I think the areas that are going to end up being covered with mesh anyway, I think those are great. It's in here that's going to be bare. There is some cheekiness that's going to be bare, but a lot of this is going to be covered up with this mesh. So it's kind of like my test case, because Sweet Pea is not going to have any mesh, and I need to get my skin tones happy before I get to that exposed area. Alright, I think this is a good spot to leave it for today. What I've done is I've done some washes of different colors into her hair. Now Rocket's hair is a little redder than Sweet Pea's. Sweet Pea's is a little blonder. Still, neither of them are the platinum blonde the baby doll is, but these, I'm getting all these nice variations of reds and browns in here, and that's going to allow me to do a dry brush of the beige that I used to do the undercolor or the most color. I can dry brush that over top of it, and it's going to hopefully give me all the variations that I like. I'm finding out that less is more when it comes to doing the paint. A very, very light coating of the base coating. This is looking very nice. I want to do a highlight pass on that and before it's ready to go. Painting in the straps is helping me to see where the colors are going to relate when it comes to putting the net over the legs. But yeah, I think, and I also took some time to start working on my gas masks zombies here. And oh, got mail call today, and another lovely decal sheet from the one and only Rick Sternbach. And these are what he's calling sci-fi greeblies, and or widgets. Sorry, sci-fi widgets. I think greeblies belongs to the Star Wars universe, but these are science fiction widgets designed by Rick Sternbach, and they're basically things for your scratch-built ship. That, you know, generic radiation symbols or an alphabet or hatches or things like that, just to dress up the outer hull of your favorite scratch build. And I'm sure those are going to get a workout in the near future. Hello and welcome to Tuesday. I've been having some fun this morning. I got on a kick. I got on a kick where I was working on Rocket's hair. And I'm really liking how that turned out. Now, yesterday I had put on the wash coat, which was a dark brown over the. I think I started off with this pale sand over the resin, over the printed part, and then I did a wash of the brown on top of that. Well, I let that set all night, and this morning I've been going in and just doing some dry brushing on top of that, and I'm trying to get the right blonde. It should be a dirty blonde. There actually should be a little bit more red in there, so I may do another wash to redden that up just slightly. I'm working on starting, did a little coat on the lips and blued up the eyes, not making the eyes white. Your irises or your the whites of your eyes are very rarely are they actually white. So that's more of a wolf gray or a cool gray. So playing with that and having some good fun, and taking some of the skin tones that I worked with yesterday and painting things in, like the fingers and the elbows and the details that had gotten covered up on the hands on both of the gals. This is what I was talking about as far as, you know, getting a good flesh tone and then working on the parts for both figures at the same time, as opposed to starting one figure and just working on that exclusively. I'm toying with ideas for Rocket's dress. Let's just do this. It's a good excuse to use a gray because it should be grayer than black. And I had her standing next to Sweet Pea yesterday, and the color here, which is German gray, was very close to the NATO black that Sweet Pea's duster is made out of. So I wanted something that I could differentiate the two with, and looking at reference pictures, I can go a little bit lighter with this, the gray on this costume, but I think I've overshot it. This is light gray. I know there's a medium gray in here somewhere, but I think it may be a mixture of 50-50 of the German gray and a medium gray to make it a little bit lighter than that, but not as bright as that. So that's where I'm kind of at today. I sprayed yesterday the mesh that I want to use. I sprayed that black, and I thought about it all last night about how to attach that, because if I can get away from using CA, I want to, because CA is sloppy and it's you have to move quickly with it. So I'm thinking, I have not tried this out for sure yet, but I'm thinking of going with the UV glue route, because I can put a little bit of UV glue around the edge there, and that gives me time to position the mesh, and then I can hit it with the UV light. It's not as instantaneous as when you're working with CA, and I'm really looking forward to doing this part, at least on the top. I'm ready to do I've got the skin here ready to go on the front and on the back here. Almost ready to go on the sleeves, but before I do that, I want to make myself absolutely happy with this gray color and get that painted, because once I get that mesh in, I don't want to be touching anything around it. So that's why. That's why I'm toying with that gray color. It's the last step before I do any of that, and then I want to be able to kind of have her upper torso done while I am mapping out and doing the mesh for the bottom here, for her thighs. But yeah, I like the fact that the skin tones are looking good. They are a little bit more athletic, a little bit more natural colored than Baby Doll was. They're a good skin tone. Yeah, it's coming along nicely. Coming along. Okay, I just spent the last hour or so doing the most thankless work. I won't even thank myself for it. You may not notice it because you'd have to have a before and after memory going, but all of this gray has been lightened up, which meant I also had to repaint all of the touching of the black, where the black stripe goes over top of it. And that's a tedious amount of work, and there's still some touching up here. I can see from after I stepped back and took the spectacles off, I can see where I need to touch up some even now. So we're going to let that dry, and then I think the next thing to do that will be an interesting project will be to start putting the mesh pieces on and seeing whether that's going to be a good, whether what I'm thinking in my head is actually going to be a good practice out in the real world. Okay, the fishnet is done on the back of the top, the back of the shirt, the back of the torso, and it's a bad news, good news, unexpected news type of thing. I'm gonna hold my surprise off. That's what it looks like. Now I am trusting that the closed up bits here will even out once I've sprayed the whole thing with a flat coat. Bad news is I was not able to use the UV glue method I was hoping for. It was just too sloppy, too painful. It wasn't drying fast enough. I was holding the light over it. It just wasn't reacting well. So I had to fall back and do what I didn't want to have to do, and that was use CA. And the unexpected news is it worked okay. It didn't fight me too much. I was afraid it was going to be a lot messier than it was. So what I've learned how to do in these 4 bits was to tack it in place with CA in one spot and then kind of work it down the rest of the curve, tacking it every once in a while and then hitting just a little CA on a toothpick and just touching it along the edge there and then coming back after it with the kicker to set that up real fast. But I'm trying, but I'm not half trying to make sure all of the weave is consistent here. That's madness, I think. I did try here on the very prominent ones to make sure that this pattern is repeated so that it looks like the fishnet is all going the same direction. And now that I've got the back done, I think I'm confident enough to try the front, and that will be a good stopping place for today. All right, I think I've got a great place to stop today. I've got a good chunk of work done on the lace. I'm just doing some cleanup here. Pardon my manicness, but here you go. Here is the front and the sleeves, the back, and the back of the sleeves. Now I'm going to take some black paint and just hit some touches just where a seam might not match, or like right here. Now once I put the sleeves in, it does cover up some of that, but yeah, that's exactly what I was hoping for, because when I put the CA down, it made a gloss. It made a little glossy spot. So I went out and just hit everything with the flat coat once I got everything done. And I even like these places where it's not form-fitting against the skin, and it's just like normal cat suit like that. It pulls up. But yeah, I think that's exactly the look I was hoping for. Now I just got to do it on the legs. Those are even trickier. Well, good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday, and work is progressing on these 2 fine ladies. It's also Groundhog Day again. We've got 6 more weeks of model making. Yay! I was looking through some beauty shots of Sweet Pea, never a bad thing to do, to get an idea of how much makeup she had on. And of course, both of these gals have heavy smoky eye stuff going on, so that's going to be fun. But I found a picture of Sweet Pea, and well, let me just show you the picture. Now I want you to notice the one thing that I was happy to see. Okay, here's the picture that I found, and not only do you get a wonderful idea of her the makeup on her face. See what I'm saying about the big smoky eye? That's going to be fun. Minimal lipstick, minimal makeup. But one of the things I was able to see that I really liked was the straps on her belt, on her weapon carrying thing, are a olive green or olive drab. They're like a military green. They are not black like everything else, so that gives me an excuse not to paint them black. Yay! So I immediately pulled out the figure and made the big change. And as you can see, painting the stripes in a different color, it gives me some contrast that I really want, so I don't have everything as black on black on black. The belt is the last part of that. I'm not going to paint that big unit on the back there, the big square thing. I'm going to leave that black. I'm going to paint those two smaller straps, and then the belt I will paint in, and I'll leave the buckles black as well. But yes, I get an excuse not to use black. I'm going to take it. In other news, working on the laces and the tops of the laces for rockets. Look at that. I am just so happy with how that turned out. I redid the grommets there, and there goes the phone. Okay, so I've just put the laces in places, or the places where they go. What I did is I just took some of this this here twine and bunched it up, looped it up, made it look like bunny ears and all that kind of stuff, and then hit it with some CA to lock it in position, and then painted it up. But right now I've got it in place, and I wanted to make sure that it was hanging right as far as gravity goes, because it would not be laying against the face of the boot. They would be hanging straight down because those eyelets would be weighted. So now that those are in place, I can let that CA cure for a bit, and then I want to do the final touching up on these boots, because we're to the point now where I'm hoping to be touching these parts for the last time until final construction. I am also of two minds here about putting the mesh on the, well, let's zoom back out. About putting the mesh on the elbows. It is such a, not that it's such a small area that you don't deserve it, but it's such a contoury area that particularly this guy, that elbow, getting it to wrap around is not easy when you're working with this screen material. It wouldn't be easy if you were working with fabric either. It might be a little easier. The best I could come up with would be to do something like that, where you fold it around and then make another piece that goes over the elbow itself. So I'm going to toy with that some more this afternoon, but I wanted to take care of some parts that I knew I could check off of the list. Okay, pardon the detour, but I got sidetracked. I started thinking about something else to do that was going to be a little bit more fun than painting a million of these eyelets again, or trying to figure out the mesh for the elbows. And that is, I want to put the I looked at this gas mask Nazi helmet, and I thought, you know, I don't like those sunken eyes. I want to put lenses over top of those. So basically I just cut out a couple stormtrooper eyes, because that's what they look like, clear, that I'm going to glue over top of that. And I think I'm going to take one of them and put it on whole, and then the other one I think I'm going to break, like it's like the gas mask has been broken, the lens has been broken, and I just put the pieces in there. So yeah, that's the kind of random fun I'm having on a Wednesday afternoon. Okay, I've got the lenses on my zombie gas mask now, or my Nazi gas mask, and I thought it might be a nice idea to just shoot a hole in that lens there, like that's the shot what got them. So we're going to let this crystal clear dry, hopefully crystal clear, and then I'll decide after that whether I want to make that look like a black rubber gasket, or whether I want to do that with a brass, make it look more steampunky. So yeah, we're going to let that sit, and I'm going to stop stalling and try to get back to the actual gal here. As you can see, the laces are on, they've dried. What I want to do now is take the tiny brush and clean up some of those eyelets with the silver paint. Whether I'm going to try using the Molotow again or not, maybe just a highlight. I like the look of the Molotow, but it is picky. It doesn't, it looks good in some instances, looks good in the way it catches the light, but also has a tendency to look a little fake. A little too chromy. I might just do it as a high spot. It's not easy to apply around contoured edges. It's nice if you're running it on something flat, but not if you are trying to ostensibly paint with it. Maybe if I spilled some of it out and then used a tiny brush, I might have better luck. Let's maybe give that a shot. Well, we're getting ready to close up for today, and today's been one of those tiny incremental, just as necessary as every other day days, but done a lot of detail painting that doesn't immediately jump out and be real flashy. I'm just cleaning up some stuff here, touching up the flesh on the hands there, cleaning up the grip around the weapons here and on this hand as well, and did a lot of work on this, although it doesn't jump out. I painted these green straps here to match the straps on her belt and weapon holders, and did some work on the boots to get the eyelets done in the Molotov. And like I said, a lot of stuff doesn't immediately jump out as being showy, but it's all very necessary. I'll let those dry in place. The that leg doesn't want to stand by itself. Hello everybody and welcome back. It's Thursday. It is the gateway to the weekend. Man, the days are flying by so quickly on this. Last night I got a wild hair and I was working after hours. I know I normally shut down around 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock ish, and that's all I do for the day. But yesterday, for some odd reason, I kept going. And after dinner I came back and I wrapped the right leg. And I decided the best way to handle some of this was to put new black straps, garter straps, over top of the areas once they were down. And I decided I was not going to try covering her cheeks with the material, but stopping at that demarcation, which also helps give me a more defined line. Today I need to do the left leg, and that will finish all of the netting on the torso, and that'll just leave me with the elbows to figure out. The elbows, for some reason, are proving to be the most difficult thing, so I've been putting them off for last. Let's see. I also, yesterday, I can't remember whether I put it on the video or not, so I'll just tell you again. I redid the eyelets with the Molotov, so I redid all the eyelets. Today I need to touch those up, touch up the black around them, and then I want these boots to be done, so they'll be made for walking after this last bit. So let's move this off of here and get the right or the left leg finished up. And then I'm still trying to figure out the best way to handle the gas mask. I got the crystal clear, the micro crystal clear has dried. I went ahead and painted some brass around the sockets there. I put some brass over the eagle. I got to repaint this because I realize that's a little bit too showy. That needs to be a darker color. It doesn't need to be metallic like that. Maybe a highlight or something, or a scratch, but not, the whole thing doesn't need to be metallic like that. And yeah, so I'm working on little bits. I'm trying to I'm vacillating between, taking some part and finishing it the whole way down, or just going around and touching a little bit of everything. And the little bit of everything route is not giving me the results I want. So I think I need to just start concentrating on a piece and finishing it completely out. Alrighty, I am almost done with the fishnettery, except those darn elbows, and I still have to figure out how devoted I'm going to be to making those elbows netted. I've gone ahead and put the knife scabbard and the holster in on the legs because that actually helps hold some of it down. I've glued in behind it, but I need to touch all of these straps back up, of course, and I'm going to be replacing these black garters or going over them again with some strip stock like on this leg. And that's going to finish off, and then the brown straps, of course, I need to repaint. But I would say 85 to 90% happy with how these have turned out. For the amount of work that's gone into getting them done, I think that's a good return on investment. I've got one last piece to do, that is this one right here, and I think I'm going to break it into two pieces right here at the narrowest spot. Just do one piece here, and then another little smaller piece there. And then once it comes into repainting those straps, that much of it will be done. Hey guys, welcome back. It's Friday. It is the last work day of the week. It's come so quickly. And today I am bound and determined. I'm going to start putting some pieces together. Yesterday I finished the torso of Rocket. Figured Rocket's torso to the extent that I am very happy with it. There are some bits that need to be touched up, of course. There will always be. I want to go over these straps, the brown straps again, so that they look more like these straps. But that's mostly done. The boots are mostly done. I'm hoping to finish those up today. Yesterday I touched up not only the gloss black here, but also some of the laces. I need to finish the laces so that I can get these boots done, and by the end of today I want to have, or even the middle of today, I want to have the boots and the torso permanently joined together. I have determined, I don't know whether I said this before or not, but I have determined that I am not going to do the elbows on the costume here. I am not going to put the mesh on the elbows. There's just too many twists and turns and bends into them. And I think I would fail. So, not going to do that. It's going to leave a nice little bit of exposed skin, just like the area around the neck here. So there is precedent for it. But I'm making that executive decision. So I want to get the arms finished, which means finishing the, painting your nails and finishing the flesh color on the hands. Getting these done to where I can put the arms on the torso today. I would love to get everything with Rocket done to the point of not adding her head. Her head would be the last bit. Because of the way the kit's designed, it can be added on at the, by itself completely independently because of that wonderful seam that's on it right there. So, if I can get her done with everything except her head today, that will be a gracious plenty. And then I can turn my efforts to Sweet Pea. Sweet Pea is more done than you might think, even though you haven't seen her for a while, because there's frankly less of her to do. Her hair is done. I'm very happy with her hair. Of course, the face needs done. This area here with the fingers, I need to do the nails and repaint those fingers a little bit more realistically. They look kind of oranged, fluorescent orange. So if I get that done, I can get the arm, which I'm happy with, but I think I might want to give it just a quick zotz. Don't mind all these little zits and stuff here. That's covered up. You don't see that because it's up against her body, so I'm not concerned about those. I kind of got distracted into working on these Nazi helmets, and still trying to figure out the best way to display those. But that took time away from the figures at large, so I need to get back to the figures. So let's start. I need to concentrate on the actual things that I am working on. So I'm going to remove all the parts here that I'm not working on and boil myself down to just these boots right off the bat. Well, this will be a day long remembered. The legs are glued down. Hallelujah. And now you can get a good view of this really twisted corkscrew posture she's in. Got to add the big gun right here, and that's going to cover up some stuff, some of the details on the back there. But yeah, that's how she looks. And getting these legs to stand up, the only way they would really stand is like after I jammed everything in position. So these two joints here are curing, and that's got 1 minute epoxy on it to give it a good stable filling in the gaps and all that kind of stuff, gluing. No paltry little CA is going to handle that job. Yep, we're ready for the last bit of touch up on the hands. I got to go find out whether, I think she had black nail polish, so I need to go paint her nails in. But she's almost ready to get her arms put on, and then all it will be left to do, besides the big machine gun back here, is the face or the head. And her head is mostly done. I haven't touched her eyes yet. I'm happy with the rest of it, but I haven't touched her eyes yet. She's got that really, well, she and Sweet Pea both have that really smoky eye makeup. So I may have to practice on something before I can say I'm ready to do that. That will not get done today, and that will be in next week's video when I wrap this up. But if I can get these arms on today, that would be a great place to finish. And now Rocket is fully armed. She's got her right side arm and her left side arm. She is one noggin away from being ready, but there's still obviously still some work to do on the face. But the body is coming along nicely. Now there are some gaps to fill. I noticed when I put this arm on, as much as I crammed it up in there, and I even shaved down the pin, there's still a little bit of a gap there, and I think I can fill that in with some black tulip. Luckily it's right there on a costume seam line, so it would be easy to extend those gloves up and paint those. I think what happened is I had too much epoxy in there, and when the epoxy expanded, which it does when it cures, there was no place for it to go, so it pushed the arm down a little bit. Even though there are holes cut in to both sockets, it could have started to set up and closed over those holes. So it needs a little squashing in there to hold it in place, but we're good. We're good. 90% of that is wonderful. Okay, that's a rather rude view to start off with, but the last bit doing for the week is I went ahead and epoxied the torso, or the hips and the upper thighs, into the legs. And again, just like with Rocket, doing Sweet Pea this way, the best way is to position the legs how they'll be on the base. That way we know that everything is drying in its right relationship. So I can go ahead and take this stick out now, so maybe she'll be less rigid. But boy, the double entendres are just flying. I don't mean it that way, but that's how she's going to be finished for the week. And here we have, I also did a little bit of work on the skin of her face, or her head, and I really should put a flat coat on that to lock those base colors in before we go too much further. There's a lot of tonal work needs done, but that'll have to happen next week. And here's where we're going to leave it for this week. Now, a lot of Sweet Pea is just standing together by gravity, and of course, Rocket is off with her head still. She's not had her head put on straight. And I've got a couple of these other heads that I have worked on this week, the gas mask zombies, that I don't know exactly how they're going to be utilized. But all I've got left on Rocket is her face, which is like saying, you know, All we got left to do is get a man on the moon. And then, as far as Sweet Pea goes, I've got her face, and I've got to touch up her hands, the skin on her hands. I'm about good from her waist down. She's done. I'm happy with her torso. Obviously, face, a little bit more on the hair, but her hands right now are awfully sunburnt looking. So I got to work on them, and then she'll be very close to being done. And we're all going to do this next week, but I figured I would piece them together so you could get one look at how they turned out for the week. Of course, the big news was getting all that fishnet done on Rocket here, and I think that was a week's worth of work well spent. And I really don't miss it here on the elbow because we have the open part of the neck and her face. I don't miss it there. So I think that was a lot of needless heartache that I was wise to sidestep. And I think that's a good place to stop for the week. I think we've got a good amount done. Was really surprised how painlessly that screening went on. I mean, yes, you could see spots that are dark where the glue touches, but it was going to have to be glued on somehow anywhere. And if I had used any sort of fabric, I would have had to have stretched it and then tacked it down, and then it would have been wavering and all that kind of stuff. I think for my money, the best solution was the screening because it pulled tight and it maintains its pattern. I just like it. I think it was the best solution given these meaty sausage fingers and my ability to work with fine detail. So until next week when we'll be finishing this up and we'll be delving into eye makeup and all that kind of stuff. Y'all be good to each other, be safe, be smart. Be back next week.